to this point in your life, you have probably been pretty passive to the states of your nervous system. Like when they happen and you feel like you're, in a bad mood, but you're really unsympathetic, you have probably just waited for the mood to pass, right? Like you haven't been active to changing the state of your nervous system. In other words, you've been a passive operator of your nervous system, not an active operator of your nervous system. And so a lot of this work is being able to identify what state you're in and then using tools to be able to move yourself out of active self-protection if it's not necessary or applicable to the experience that you're having. Like if you're at a level 10 and the experience might require a level 2 of activation, it will help you so much to learn to regulate your nervous system so that you can move out of active self-protection and into a place of safety so that you can handle the situation in a more appropriate way, right? Like that's the good news, is that I can teach you how to do that. I have a program that does just that. It's called 30 Days of Co-Regulation. But more importantly, I want to help you resolve why you keep going into active self-protection. Because I can give you a tool for when you're feeling anxious. I can give you lots of them actually, and they will work. But if you're still getting anxious every day, multiple times a day, or multiple times a week, there is a key that something is unresolved in your system. I guess I should have said a clue that something is unresolved in your system, because we repeat what is incomplete. Okay, so another example would be like if you get defensive every time anybody gives you any feedback and you can't just like receive it, you literally feel like your body's on fire. That used to be me. And I'm here to say, like, I want to give you some tools for when you're feeling that way. And I want you to understand that there is a root cause to that, and we can resolve it so that you don't actually get at a level 10 when someone's giving you feedback, and instead you can receive it in the moment. Do you see the difference? Like, one is like regulating your nervous system is necessary, and it is such a bummer that no one has taught you this until this point. Like, it's so unfair that you've gone through life without knowing this. Everyone should learn this as a kid. But our parents didn't know, so who was going to teach us, right? But if all you do is learn how to regulate your nervous system, it's like another Band-Aid or another coping skill. It becomes that because you're still having the triggers happen all the time. And so yes, you are going to have, like, we can equip you with tools to know how to handle the triggers when they happen. But wouldn't it be awesome if you didn't get triggered, or if you got triggered at a level 2 instead of a level 10? Like, that's where the magic is in this work. Okay, so I want you to know that you can become the active operator of your nervous system, and that's great news. And that means that when you're in sympathetic, or when you're in freeze, or when you're in dorsal, you're going to be aware of it, and you're going to say, I know what to do now to get myself out of this. I don't have to just wait for myself to feel better, right? Like, I'm not waiting on the world to make me feel better. I feel empowered to go do something. There's so much power in that. Trust me, like, when you're someone like I was, where I literally was, if I was in a bad mood, aka an active self-protection, like, everybody needed to watch out. And I would just, best case scenario, not have to see anybody else that day, because if I saw him, I was going off on him. Like, that was old Courtney. That was pre-healing Courtney, okay? So there is good news for someone like me if you're feeling like that, because I can give you tools to bring yourself out of those active self-protection states. But the better news is that you can also learn how to resolve the triggers, what is causing them. You can get to the root of them, and then it's no longer like a Band-Aid where, oh, I'm triggered and now I got to use the tool to calm down. Instead, you don't have to have these landmines lying everywhere that you're just, someone's going to step on, your poor kid or your poor husband or your coworker or whatever. You actually, like, they are not going to erupt the same way that they did before, and you are going to feel so much relief, and your system is going to have so much more capacity. So to change your triggers, we have to figure out why your nervous system keeps getting triggered. We have to figure out what is unresolved or incomplete in your system. So you're probably thinking, well, what does it mean when something is unresolved? So we all know what unresolved conflict is, right? You and your spouse get in some sort of conflict, but there's no repair and there's no resolution, and yet you're still married to him or he's still your partner. And now you guys have to go solve this other thing together. Like now your kid has practice and you have to pretend like y'all are all good at the practice, right? Like something else makes the relationship move forward, but you still have all of this rupture behind you. And you can logically tell yourself, I'm not mad at my husband anymore. But to your body, that is still going to feel incomplete or unresolved. To your physiology, in other words, your husband is still probably going to feel like a perceived threat, okay? And you might be able to override that feeling a little bit, but you might notice like you don't want to be as intimate or as close, or you don't want to let him in, or you're not going to give him another chance, or there's all these ways that you're in protection, okay? And that's because there are things that are unresolved in your physiology, okay? So that's an example of something being incomplete or unresolved. Now, we have lots of instances of this. Another example I want to give you is like, you went to some dinner and you said something awkward and your mind is just replaying it over and over again when you leave, right? That's unresolved to your system and it's incomplete to your system. And so we, like as simple of an example as that is, we have so many instances of things being incomplete and unresolved in our system, okay? And some of them are much more intense than others, obviously, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about this in the trauma video that's coming up. But what I want you to understand is just a basic understanding of like what I mean when things are unresolved. So what's interesting about your system is it's going to repeat what's incomplete. Okay, so if you have patterns that keep showing up, like you're always triggered around this topic, or you always have this behavior pattern when this happens, like you're always getting defensive when you get feedback, or you always yell at your kids, right? Like this is a pattern. There's a reason it's happening. Something is unresolved in your system, incomplete in your system. And what I'm always trying to figure out, and what you're going to see in this training, there are 2 one-on-one sessions included so that you can actually witness this. But when there's a behavior that's repeating, it's because something is incomplete in your past. Something was traumatizing in your past. Something was too much for your nervous system in your past. And it is trying now to get what it didn't get back then. Okay? And so you are going to see these behavior patterns keep showing up, and using a regulation tool isn't going to change anything because you're still going to feel the unsettled feeling, the activation in your body, and you might even still have the behavior pattern when the trigger happens. So when your nervous system is reminded of that past experience. And so our work is to go in and try to complete or resolve what didn't get to happen in your past. So I am always looking for what's incomplete, what was missing, what did you need that you didn't get? Like those are the questions that I am always trying to answer when a client is presenting to me, like, here's the behavior that I want to change in the present. I'm trying to get curious about, well, where did that show up in your past? What was missing back then, and how can we resolve that? And a lot of times it's using what we call the image channel, which again, when we do the one-on-one sessions, I'll get into a little bit more of what that might look like. But I want you to know that this is the connection between trauma and your nervous system. It's that your nervous system remembers what happened in your past. It's body memory. It's implicit. You may not have the explicit memory of it, but your body remembers the feeling, the felt experience. And so it is going to come to your aid in the form of self-protection anytime you are feeling something similar, okay? And let's go a little bit into what trauma is next.